Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session, How to Connect the Open Science Framework to the EUR Data Repository. This session is part of the Research Transparency campaign, whose goal is to increase awareness of pre-registration and other open research practices that are necessary to ensure transparency in the research workflow. This campaign is organized by the Erasmus Research Institute of Management, the Erasmus University Library, and Erasmus Research Services. My name is Schettino, and I'm Coordinator Open Science at Erasmus Research Services. Among the things that I do, I develop educational and training materials on open science for students, researchers, and support staff. Also, I directly support researchers in implementing open science in their workflow. So if you want to open up your projects, send me an email and I'll do my best to help. Also, please consider joining the Open Science Community Rotterdam, where researchers and support staff help each other in learning, discussing, and adopting open science practices. For more information, there will be a link in the chat. In today's session, we will talk about how to connect the Open Science Framework to the EUR Data Repository. And our invited speaker is Nynke de Groot, who is a research data management specialist at the Erasmus University Library and project lead and curator of the EUR Data Repository. Before starting the meeting, a few reminders. Please keep your microphone muted. Video is optional, so if you don't want to be recorded, please turn it off. If you have questions, there are two ways to ask them. After the recording, you can click on the raise hand button and we will give you the floor so that you can ask the question yourself. Or you can write down your question in the chat, and after the recording, I will read it on your behalf. That's it from me. Nynke, thanks for joining us. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Thanks. So thanks for inviting me for this lovely introduction. So yeah, I'm a very hands-on person. So first I'll try to share my screen and then I literally have only 4 slides with text on it, and the rest is just showing how things actually work. And it starts with sharing this one, right? Yeah, brilliant. Oh, I have a cat, so he might come and join a couple times. All right, so connecting the OSF with the EUR Data Repository. Usually I start with this little picture, which is a very simple depiction of the phases in research, so preparation, collection and storing, analyzing and publishing and archiving. And of course, in light of open science, the idea, the principles of open science is to be as transparent and open as possible in each of these phases of research. But that also means, because there are so many different researchers with different research projects and different needs, that means there's a lot of tools available to help researchers actually achieve this. And it can sometimes be a little bit complex, hence this specific session on the OSF and the EDR. So starting with the OSF, I don't know if you all use it or not, but just a very short reminder. The OSF supports open science throughout all these phases that I just saw. And one of the great things that it does is you can create and develop projects, which are called workspaces. And a project can be as small or as large as you want. So it could be one project for a paper or for an entire experiment, or maybe even for an entire work of a lab, for example. So it's very flexible in that sense. And because there are so many different needs, it also means you can connect a lot of different tools to the OSF to help you in your research. And one of those tools is the EUR Data Repository. And the EDR, that we call the EDR, which is our institutional repository for publishing research output. And what you can do if you have stored some data or worked on some data or documentation in the OSF, you can publish that through the EUR Data Repository. And of course, there's lots of different repositories you could connect to the OSF, but we, of course, from the EUR, we would advise to use the EDR if possible, because it has some additional features that we think are really important when it comes to sharing research output. So first of all, it's very handy that you can publish data and outputs in all shapes and sizes. And everything that gets published gets a DOI, which is really great for putting in a manuscript or whatever, or any other place where you would like your data to be findable or citable. But specifically, the last 2 bullets, within the EDR, you can select access level and determine how others may reuse the data. Because of course we promote to be as open as possible, but sometimes restrictions might be necessary. So, and those things are already built into the repository, which means, for example, you can put an embargo on items that you're still working on or that you don't want to share just yet. And if you do want to share something, you can say, you can specify how others may do that. So it could be do it wherever you want, but it could also be you can use it, but not for commercial purposes. So you have some access and control of, you have some control over how others may reuse that data. And finally, which is one of the defining features of our repository, is that before items are published, they always get reviewed. Knowing researchers, they are usually very enthusiastic about their work, but that also means that in their enthusiasm, you could end up pushing the publishing button a bit too quickly, and then accidentally you might share something that you did not want to share yet. Hence, we have this extra little catch area here, which means that before items get really published, they are reviewed. And I am one of those people who reviews that data. So what we specifically do is we look at enriching metadata, looking at formats and licensing, etc. Because when you share data, it's supposed to be as fair as possible. So findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So if you just publish a data set without any contextual information, it's great, it's out there, but it's not very reusable because someone else cannot interpret what it's about. So this is one of the things that the reviewer does. And also an interesting articles I actually found is that if publishing fair actually increases your own visibility and also, for example, citation rates or data reuse. So actually, this is where the researcher and the reviewing process really can strengthen each other and interact to make it more fair and more visible, which is, again, better than for the researchers. So that is simply what the EDR is all about. So this is my last slide with text about connecting the OSF with EDR. As a prerequisite, you need to have an OSF project that you want to connect it to, which kind of makes sense. And you also need to have an account at the EDR. And once you have those set up, you can upload documents to the OSF and they will get pushed to the EDR. And the other way around, it works as well. So you can upload something to the EDR and then it gets pushed to the OSF. So it's a two-way connection, which is very handy. And once data is in the EDR, you can add that metadata. You can submit it for review and then it will eventually get published. So those were my text slides. Now the rest is just screenshots of how it actually works. So this is the front page, the landing page of the EUR Data Repository. And I have included all the links in the last slide. So don't worry if you can't find it yet, those links are included. So you go to the landing page and at the top right, it says login. So you log in with your EUR credentials, so your ERNA account. And if you don't have an account yet, it will then automatically be created for you because it recognizes you based on your credentials. So that's basically it. Then once you logged into the EDR, this is what you see. This is your front page, so to see. And it has 4 tabs. So My Data, Projects, Collections, and Activity. And you need to go to the second tab, which is called Projects. And it has a really big button in the center that says Create New Project. So you push that, and then basically it asks, how do you want to call it? How do you want to describe it? And then you push OK, and then you create a project. And you can see on the left side of the screen, I called my project my first OSF project. So I thought was fitting for this presentation. So I've set this up on the EDR side. Now setting things up on the OSF side, and I have to go to the next slide. Oh, is this the? No, this is the first slide on the OSF. So I actually had to get an account for the OSF because I'm not very familiar with using it. So maybe this was just a setup to get me to get an account on the OSF, but doesn't matter. So I got an account and I created my project, which I again called my first OSF project. And then this is what you see. So, and on the top, the bottom left, you can see the files that are associated with my project. And so far, nothing yet. It just says there's some storage available. So that's basically how it's set up. Then if I want to connect it to the EDR, I go to the tab called add-ons. That's the second one on the right. There you go. So I click on add-ons and you go to this screen and it will actually say select your add-on. And you can see here it says Figshare enable. And it might be a little bit confusing, but the Figshare is a software that we use for our EUR Data Repository. So it's the same software, we just named it different, so that we can be absolutely sure that this Figshare instance that belongs to the EUR. Hence we call it EDR, but you have to then connect it to Figshare because that's the software we use. All right, so you go to your add-ons page and then you click on enable for Figshare. And then it says configure add-ons, and you can click on, it says in the bottom right, import account from profile. So you can click on that and then it will just ask you which account do you want to connect. And of course, in my case, that's my account and the Groot@eur.nl. And you can just click on that and it will say connected. So it's not very complicated. So once we've connected the EDR to Figshare, you can actually see in the bottom it says folders, my first OSF project. So that's again the folder that we created in the EDR. So it shows up. So it's really good. And you select this folder, and then you can't see that on this slide here, but then you scroll down and then you say save, and then it saves those changes. So that's it. So that's how we connected it. Now we go back to our the front page of our project, and on the bottom left you can see indeed, oh, there it is. There is the folder we have connected, my first OSF project. So great. So we can now start using that. So I zoomed in on that bottom left, and I clicked on my folder, and then a few options appear. So, for example, the upload or create folder. So I thought I have to try and see how it works. So I uploaded one of my, well, probably 10 to 20,000 pictures that I have of my cat. So it's a very legitimate way to show you my cat pictures. So that's brilliant. So I've uploaded 2 pictures of my cat into my OSF project folder, and I uploaded those from the OSF side. So I thought I now want to see what happened on the EDR side. So this is how I uploaded it, and I go back to the EDR. So this is again the project folder that I showed you guys. And I click on my first OSF project, and there you go. And that literally happens within 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds. It's almost instantly. So they're here, and I thought I have to check and see if it works, and there it actually does work. So this is my cat, Mr. Kitty. However, so it is in the EDR, but the only thing that's in there is a title called Mr. Kitty 1, and that's it. So that's not really fair in that sense. So what I can do, I go back to that one item and I click on the little wheel on the right side of the screen, and it says edit item. So this is the stage where you can start adding metadata or descriptive information about this one item we'd like to publish. And there's little 3 screenshots here. So this is the screen that you then see. So you can adjust, for example, the title, authors, the category, and the category is, for example, economics or agriculture, so those types of categories. It also asks you for group, but you can forget those because you cannot see that. I can see that because I'm an admin of the system, but that basically means in which group I want an item to be published. So if you are from the group, if you belong to the faculty RSM, it will automatically put you in the group RSM because it associates you with that email address. But as an admin of the system, I can decide in which group I would want to set things. So you can forget about that. Item type, is it a picture? Is it a data set? Is it online resource? It's not rocket science. It's quite simple. You can add some keywords. And as you can also see, and this is actually quite interesting, you can add additional files. So if you have some other documentation about this picture, So for example, well, some documentation on how the picture was made or whatever, you can just drag and drop those as well. And those will get published as one item together. So they're always stuck together, which can be quite helpful. And then the second and the third one, I apologize for showing them at the same time, but it's just the rest of the metadata that you can add. So a description, what it is, when did I make that picture, what it's about, if there was any funding, that type of stuff. Of course, in this sense, there was no funding. And one other thing I'd like to mention here are the resource title and the resource DOI. So for example, if you're uploading a data set and that belongs to a published paper, you can write the title of that paper under resource title, and you can add the DOI to that published paper under resource DOI. That means that once this item is published in the EDR, it will have a very big link on the side saying this is the paper that goes with it, click here, and it will automatically bring you to that paper. So that's a really nice way to connect different, to connect, in this case, a data set with a paper. And then finally, what I already mentioned earlier, you can apply an embargo or even reserve a DOI. So for example, if you have an interesting data set, but your publication is not yet accepted, but they do ask you for a DOI, you can already reserve one, so you can submit that with your paper, but it's not active yet. So that's what I mean with setting, having some control over how you want to share data and under what type of conditions. So that's, and when you've done that, it's actually, you click the publish button, but it doesn't publish, it sends it in for review. And I can confirm that this is how we actually review all the data. It looks exactly like that. See, that's actually me wearing those glasses and stuff. So it's very scientific, very complex. So that's when the review process happens. And when that's done, it gets published. And then what we mean with publish is that it's visible on the website or on the page of the repository. And this is just what you see here is a screenshot of the front page. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 8 items here, and they're all different ones. So this is how it looks, and you can click on them, and then you will go into that and see more about this item. However, they are all different, and they are ordered chronologically. So what gets published last gets put on the top. But if you have multiple items that are supposed to be together, then well, you want to have a way of grouping them together in a collection so you can easily find them. And you can do that as well. And I've now impersonated actually one of my colleagues. So apologies for that, but that's just power of the admin, I would say. Because I impersonated this colleague of ours, and I went to her account, and I went to the third tab called Collections. You can see that our colleague Liz she made 2 collections, and one of them is research transparency. So what she has done, and I think this is really nice, she has grouped all the presentations of the research transparency month so far into this one collection. So she's done that herself. So she's grouped everything together. And what that then means is that when you then go back to the front page or the search option in the EDR, you can actually search for collection or see it as a collection. And in this case, I searched for it. So you can see on the left side of the screen, I tick the box collection, and you actually see the second one and the middle one, the collection research transparency. So if you were to then click that one, you would go to the page where all those separate presentations are grouped together. So this is really a nice way of keeping a track of data and looking for things. So that was actually what I wanted to say. I mean, there's probably a million more things to say, but we only have half an hour. So I just decided to keep it to the core of important things. Oh, I actually forgot the last slide. So once this presentation gets published, here you will find all the links So the links to the Open Science Framework, but also to the website with some support information on how to connect both tools. So that might be quite interesting. Or if you want to have some more information about how to use the EDR, we have a one page on how to publish data, etc., etc. So you can find those here. So I will stop sharing my screen. Oh, there we go, Mr. Kitty. So I guess that means that, well, this is perfect timing, I think.
Yes.
So we have 6 minutes left for questions.
Yes, thank you very much. This was extremely clear. So first of all, Liz is very honored that you impersonated her on the EDR. She just let us know. And thanks for like highlighting also the research transparency campaign and the collection. There are a few questions. I'm not sure how far we can go, but one of the questions is related to the reviewing process. So one of the advantages of publishing in the EDR is data curation, or like this sort of reviewing process. I know that you didn't have a lot of time to talk about it, but do you mind like sharing a little bit more information? Like, what do you do? What does it look like? Or maybe if there are some guidelines that you can help us with.
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, like I said, what the review process is, it's first I have to make a distinction between content and process. So we do not check content because we cannot possibly know, be an expert on every type of research that is and topic that's being conducted. So when it comes to content, that's the responsibility of the researcher. That also means make sure you prep your data before you upload it. So for example, if you have privacy data in there, check with the privacy officer first. So that's content. So we look mainly at process. And we want to, the goal of what we want to do is help to make the data more fair. Like I said, sometimes we see that researchers upload a data set or a documentation without any description. So of course we could release that, but then it's not clear what it is, so you can't use it. Sometimes we see researchers who have very interesting data sets they would like to publish, but they choose the CC0 license, which basically means do with it whatever you want. It's completely free. And sometimes that's a good choice, but sometimes that's not. So we can advise on what type of license might be more suited. So these types of things, but also on, for example, file formats. So sometimes Excel is a really good format to use, but if it's just a plain Excel format, we would ask to upload it or convert it to CSV. Comma separated file CSV, because that's a more durable format, which means that you can use that for much longer than a simple Excel file. For example, because I have some experience in research myself, and we use a SPSS, which is an analysis tool, and every year, well, there's probably a new version of that tool of software every year or maybe every 2 years. So it means 5 years from now, I can no longer open that file in that version. And that's sad. So hence we also we advise on things like file formats, which are much more durable. So that's basically what a curation process is. So it's about the process of making it as findable and as durable as possible.
Okay, thank you. So maybe related to this, so what happens to the curation process if some data are uploaded directly from the OSF to the EDR project, right? So I think this is something that maybe we should advise against, because then it will be a little bit more complicated to do the curation. Or what is your take on that?
Actually, as far as I've seen right now, it's exactly the same. Because if you upload something in the OSF and you push it to the EDR, then you have to go through the exact same review process. Of course, like I showed, there's no metadata attached to it. So first add the regular metadata, and then it's the exact same process. You tick the publish button and it gets sent to review. So from that perspective, it's exactly the same.
Okay, so yeah, so it's not so complicated, so the data curation can happen anyway from your side and from your colleague's side, even if people upload directly from the OSF to the EDR project.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. We have one more question. There's more questions, but unfortunately we don't have time. But this is a testament to to how clear your presentation was. So thanks again. So this is a question that we ask everybody. So maybe we can ask you as well. If you had to choose one open science practice that is necessary to ensure transparency, what would it be?
Ooh. Well, I'm a little bit biased towards open data. So my answer would be to share as much research output as possible and as clearly as possible. Because of course, sharing as much as possible is of course the way to go. But if you had to choose, I would go for data, because someone else might want to reuse that data or rerun analysis and then can build on it or say, hey, well, did you notice this? Or there's some other possibility. So yeah, my vote is for open data.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. We are perfectly on time. So I would like to thank you, Nynke, first of all, because that was really, really clear presentation. Then thanks everybody who joined us. And then, there will be a link in the chat for the follow-up. Because this is the last week of the Research Transparency campaign. So, we are nearing the end, but there's still quite a lot of stuff that we have prepared for you. So please join us. And we wish you a nice day.